Hey, what's happening, guys? Today we are checking out this 2001 Tacoma, and we are discussing Tacomas of this generation in general, and if they deserve that legendary status of reliability and best truck ever, or if they don't. So stick around, and we're going to get... So, Toyotas of this generation have tons and tons of fans. I think it comes down to their general reliability, just how kind of neat they are. I think it sort of has the same factor as maybe a Jeep does, as, you know, cool little pickup truck, fun to drive in, all that stuff. But I'm about to break that nut for you a little bit, I think, and talk to you about why I don't think these are the best buy to get, and why I think they're just sort of a status symbol and not necessarily the best truck for the money. So I'm going to tell you why I think that and go over some of the finer points. But let's see if I'm right, or if I'm crazy, or if you guys are going to string me up at the end of the video. So before I start bashing these cars or anything like that, I just want to tell you that I am a Toyota fan in general. It's the vehicle that got me into cars. It's one of the first, you know, caught my attention and made me sort of a car guy. And I've had lots of Tacomas, Tundras. I had a Sequoia. I've had the 4Runner. I've had lots of stuff. Had the cars too. So I don't think that they're necessarily bad cars. However, I don't think that they're worth what they cost and how much they cost to maintain. So first, let's discuss the engine. And they're well made, they're well built, they're fairly reliable in general. This one has the 2.4 liter engine. A little bit later they'd have the 2.7, very similar in design though. They made 142 horsepower, 160 foot-pounds of torque. Nothing to write home about. I mean, it's a small truck, so you don't need a big engine to do much. That being said, you would think it would be incredibly efficient in doing that. And I think Toyota has always sort of inflated the numbers as to what these things actually get.
Lies. Oh, lies!
Mileage wise, you know, they say 23, 24 if it's two-wheel drive. I never see those numbers with Toyotas, like, as far as, it's always a lot lower than what they say it is. Now, maybe this could get 20, I would say, two-wheel drive. But if you had the 3.4 in this thing, you barely crack 18 ever. And I think that's pretty mediocre when you consider the size of these trucks, and I guess the overall size of the motors. They're thirsty. They've always been very, very thirsty motors. And this truck did come equipped with a 5-speed, which is really what you want. If you get an automatic in these things, they're so doggy, it's unbelievable. There's absolutely no power. There's no control over it, and it's just and you get worse mileage than you would with a stick. So the stick is something to be sought after, but you're paying quite a bit more for it when you get the stick. The automatics, they're not giving them away, but they're definitely priced lower than their stick brethren. And this one also only two-wheel drive, so it's not going to have the same fervor of, you know, people wanting to get after it that the four-wheel drive ones would get, because those, you know, use them for off-road. You know, people build them into overland rigs, all that stuff. But this one's just kind of a little parts runner or cruise or something like that. I would also like to discuss just how Spartan these interiors really are. This one has manual windows, manual locks, has a radio, aftermarket, no AC. Just not a lot to them, but it is well built, and Toyotas aren't always known for their interiors or anything, but it's just kind of vanilla and plain. While we're inside, we'll talk about the overall size of this thing. Now, I'm not a big person, obviously. This truck fits me fine. But if you're like a 6-foot tall person, I would see this being a major pain to get in and out of, like, size-wise. You just do not have that much space. You have no recline, obviously. It's a single cab. That's no knock against them. But, you know, it is small in here. This should really be a 2-seater, and they put a seatbelt in here for who knows what reason. What's going to fit in there? Like a 2-year-old? You're gonna put your 2-year-old right there and have them shift the gears for you, or what? I don't understand why they even put a seatbelt there. It is small. When you're paying full-size truck prices for this, I don't get the trade-off there. It's, you know, you get poor fuel economy, you got no space, you got no towing capability, and we're going to discuss that in just a second. So let's talk about towing capacity with one of these trucks. Now, this does have a receiver hitch on it, but it is not very impressive. In this configuration, now, it's got 5-lug wheels, axles. It's got 4-cylinder motor. It's got a manual. It only can tow about 3,000 pounds like this. which is not a whole heck of a lot. And it's just not an impressive feat for a truck like this, I guess. You could put a little trailer behind it, tow it just fine, you know, dirt, not very much stuff though. And they only go up to about 5,000 pounds. And that's when you're getting into the V6. So you have to have a V6. It has to be an automatic to get the higher towing capacity. And it has to have the towing package on it. But those are rare trucks to find a quad cab, short bed, short box, all that stuff. And they're expensive. What are you going to pay for that? 12, 15 grand just to get you up to that 5,000 pound mark, which is not super impressive for the class when you consider an S10 or a Ranger of a similar year, when they start at about 5,000 and go up to about 6,000 to 6,400, depending on the truck. So if you're going to go in the mini truck scene and you want something to do a little bit heavier yard work, a little bit extra, I would tend to go for the S10s and the Rangers in that class, because you're going to be paying a whole lot less for them, and they're a lot easier to fix and cheaper to fix as well. Now, if it were me and I was, you know, I didn't care if it was two-wheel drive, four-wheel drive, what have you, I'd be getting a 2001 Silverado. I'd get it, if I wanted a two-wheel drive one, I'd get a 4.3, I'd get a 4.8, V8 or V6, and it would get similar mileage to this, to be perfectly honest. I had a four-wheel drive 2001 extended cab, and it consistently got 19 miles to the gallon with that 4.8, and that's very impressive. And that's going to tow a heck of a lot more than this could and would, and do it reliably as well. You're getting the LS platform, you're getting all that good stuff, but the parts are so much cheaper. Say the rear end goes out, say the transmission goes out, they're all dirt cheap. And when you're in one of these, if the automatics, they break in these. People don't like to talk about that. The 5-speeds, they're pretty reliable, but the automatics, they break all the time, and those are incredibly expensive to have fixed or to find a used one. Same with the rear ends. I've had lots of those go out on Tundras, Sequoias, all the works. So I do not see the advantage of paying that much more for a vehicle and having it be just a skosh more reliable, I would say. Like a 2001 Silverado, you see them all the time with 300,000 miles on them. And these were always lauded as being the holy grail of, you know, they can go that far. But a lot of stuff can these days. It's not worth the Toyota tax, in my opinion. That being said, as a status symbol or an item to have, I can completely understand buying these things. Why do people buy Jeeps? They're terrible. They're the worst. But people keep buying them, and they pay a lot for them, and they always break. But they look cool, and you get a nice little wave when you go by, and people put rubber ducks on your on your truck, and that's all fun and dandy. So I can definitely appreciate why these are popular. They look cool. They're neat. They have a little Japanese feel to them. You feel like you're bonsaiing down a mountainscape or something in feudal Japan, which I can definitely appreciate. But as far as a good deal, I don't think they are anymore. And let me show you the one fatal flaw of these things if you're living in the Midwest or anywhere where it snows, and why I do not buy Toyotas anymore, just for the simple fact. It is that world famous frame rot. And I've never seen one not rust out right by the exhaust. They all do the same thing. The constant heating and cooling of the area with moisture, whatever metal they were using around this time, the frames turned to dust. And this isn't something that occurred on old rusty beaters either. I had a Toyota Sequoia, spotless vehicle, clean as a whistle. You could eat off of it. Underneath of it, the entire frame was rotted to nothing. I mean, they told me they wouldn't even put it up on a lift. It was so dangerous to be riding around it. And Toyota did do some buyback programs back then and whatnot, but it's still the same thing. Even in 2007, 2008 vehicles, I've seen it all over. They all rot out in that same spot, and they get a whole lot worse of them. You've seen on the internet them cracked in half on the lifts. It happens, and it's a real thing, and it's why I don't buy them anymore, because I've seen so many of them, and they're all rotten in the same spot. And even if you go get one down south, it's going to do the same thing when it gets up here. If you drive it in the snow, if you drive it in the mud, it all collects in that same area. The mud, the dirt, the heat, the cooling. And I can't abide by it. I know you can patch it, you can fix it, whatever, but it's never going to be right as well as it could be done from the factory. And that's why I don't get Toyotas anymore. That's why it's such a bummer, because these were such fun vehicles for me, and they're just not anymore. Taking the fun right out of it for me. So, so those are my feelings on Toyota Tacomas, Tundras, Toyota in general. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. You might string me up for that, but I don't know. That's what I found in my travels and what I think. So let me know, guys. Thanks for watching.